before we jump straight into the SIIPS report. So I don't know who is sharing the slide on our end. Is it you, Serge? Okay. Just 1 second to allow the slides to load. All right.
Let me know if you can see the
Yes, I
slides.
can see my screen, and you can go to the next slide. Thank you very much, Serge. So, just before what I think it's good to understand what we are talking about. You will hear throughout this presentation IIPS a lot. Let's break it down so that you understand what we're talking about. Well, let's watch this 2-minute video and then we'll be back. You know.
Imagine being able to send or receive money in just a few seconds, anytime, day or night. That's what an instant payment system, or IPS, makes possible. An instant payment system is a digital system for making quick, low-value payments. It processes transactions in real time, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. These payments are safe, final, and happen directly between people or businesses through banks, mobile money, or other digital channels. But what makes an instant payment system inclusive? Inclusivity means that everyone, whether in a big city or a small village, has equal access to make or receive payments. It also ensures low cost and low value transactions, so no one is left out because of affordability. Inclusive instant payment systems are built on key principles. They are open loop, connecting all banks and non-bank payment providers. Licensed payment service providers have fair access to join. Participants have an equal say in shaping how the system works. Users can rely on transparent systems to resolve any issues. And finally, the system supports all kinds of payments, from sending money to a loved one to paying for groceries or bills. Inclusive instant payment systems create opportunities for everyone. They make it easier for businesses to grow, for families to manage finances, and for economies to thrive. They also enable seamless government payments, allowing citizens to receive social benefits and pay for essential services like taxes and school fees securely and efficiently. With central banks often guiding governance, the system remains fair, safe, and reliable. Through inclusive instant payment systems, we are building a continent where everyone can safely, affordably, and instantly participate in the digital economy.
So this is the IIPS we are advocating for as AfricaNenda. So I had 1 or 2 slides on who we are and our corporate video, but I think you can watch the video later on because we are running out of time. But we are an Africa-based, African-led organization. I think Jude explained, shared different countries. We are 25 staff members based in different countries, 13 countries within Africa. And then our mandate is really advocating to have more IIPS on Africa, because we believe with those IIPS, people will be able to participate fully into the digital economy. From the data we have, there is 400 million African who are excluded from the financial inclusion. And on another hand, when you look at the global Findex, you will realize that in Africa, for example, we have a lot of African who have access to mobile phone. We have a lot of African who use digital payment, but still that inclusivity piece is missing. And that's why we're advocating. And our objective is by 2030 to be able to bring 260 million African in that in the financial inclusion system, and then help them have access to finance and transact easily. So, and then SIIPS, this report is one of the piece we use for our advocacy journey. So I'll hand over to Serge to take you through the SIIPS 2025 insights, and then we'll open up for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Berry, and hello, everyone. So my name is Serge Moulianou, and I am advocacy and capacity building specialist with AfricaNenda. So during the next few minutes, we are going to go through some of the key highlights of the SIIPS 2025 report. And we start by explaining what is the relationship between what we are calling inclusive instant payment systems and the digital public infrastructure, which is, we all believe, the next frontier of inclusivity. So the DPI is defined by basically three layers. One, which is the payment layer, then the consent-based data sharing layer, and the digital ID layer. For a digital public infrastructure to fully function, according to its four characteristics, so to function at the societal scale, to function in a fully interoperable way, and through robust standards, the DPI needs a payment layer that respects and fulfills those characteristics. We have defined the inclusive specific meaning of inclusivity, and during this presentation we are going to go deeper, because as you may understand, there is really a whole spectrum of inclusivity in the instant payment systems in Africa. So let's first start with some of the key highlights of the report of last year. We do that report and that research on a yearly basis, and it is made through a combination of desk research and key informant interviews. We also do on-site research, especially in 4 countries, where we go to the level of interviewing the end users on their habits, usage of digital financial services. So those demand research interviews, well, this demand research made in these 4 countries this year is done through individual interviews and focus group discussions. Last year, for the reports 2025, we went to Angola, Cote d'Ivoire, Madagascar, and Tunisia. But on a yearly basis, we change the countries. So the goal is really to have an evidence coming from the representative set of few countries in Africa, in terms of what the end users are how the end users are using digital financial services, and what are their needs, and what are their challenges and aspirations. So eventually, the output of all of these is the research, the SIIPS 2025 report. Within the report, you have a number of case studies that also exist as standalone documents. You can have a look at those on our website. In the report of last year, we have, in terms of case studies, we have IPN, the IPN in Egypt, ItSwitch in Ethiopia, SIMO in Mozambique, and NIP in Nigeria. And on top of it, when you visit the AfricaNenda website, you can use the IPS interactive map that allows you to quickly find facts on each and every of the IPS that are mentioned in the report. So it's really an easy way for you to fetch data without needing to go into the details of the report. We invite you to look at it. So I think, okay. This one, Berry, is that where you, so let me just put the video. I think the name of the title is not, okay, anyway. Let me put the video. I think it's showing the experience of users when it comes to payments. And this case is really from Tunisia, from a consumer using digital payments and cash.
عسلامة، منى عثماني، عمري 30 سنة، Senior IT Project Coordinator ونسكن في تونس. تربيت ونخدم في تونس وممسي نخدم في دومين التكنولوجي، إلا إنه البايمون إلكترونيك ماش حاجة عادية في حياتنا اليومية.
تفضل.
هيشك نجم نخلص بالكارتة؟
لا، ما نقبلو كان سبيس، ديزولي.
هذه سيتواسيون ديما تصير لي في القهاوي، لازمني نخلص اون ليكيد. حتى اصحاب المشاريع يفضلوا انه الكليون نتاعهم يخلصوا اون اسبيس، واحنا اوني اوبليجي دو سادابتي. وانت الكليون نتاعك يفضلوا انه
Excuse me, Nisrin?
Yeah, so let me take over and share it from my side. I think it's buffering because it's on the PPT. Okay?
Oh, really? It's buffering? So should I stop sharing?
Yes, please stop sharing. I will share it from my side, okay? Okay. And please, colleagues, let us know in the chat if it's better, okay?
عسلامة، منى عثماني، عمري 30 سنة، Senior IT Project Coordinator ونسكن في تونس. تربيت ونخدم في تونس وممسي نخدم في دومين التكنولوجي، إلا إنه البايمون إلكترونيك ماش حاجة عادية في حياتنا اليومية.
تفضل.
هيشك نجم نخلص بالكارتة؟
لا، ما نقبلو كان سبيس، ديزولي.
هذه سيتواسيون ديما تصير لي في القهاوي، لازمني نخلص اون ليكيد. حتى اصحاب المشاريع يفضلوا انه الكليون نتاعهم يخلصوا اون اسبيس، واحنا اوني اوبليجي دو سادابتي. وانت الكليون نتاعك يفضلوا انه يخلصوا بالاسبيس ولا بالكارتة؟
بصراحة أكثريتهم بيخلصوا بالسبيس. ديجا برشا عباد ديما با عندهم كارتا يا ما عندهمش كونفيونس في البروسيدور نتاع البيمون ديجيتال. وبالنسبة لي نحن سي بلو سامبل، ما ثمش بابراس وأقل دي فري بانكير.
رغم اللي أنا نخدم في دومين التكنولوجيا، إلا إني لازمني نتأقلم مع الواقع التونسي ولازم يكون فوقي ديما كاش. رقمنا جزء من حياتي المهنية، أما كي نخرج للشارع التونسي نلقى واقع مختلف. الكاش مازال لازم، اما ماهوش براتيك. ونحكيو بصراحه، فما عباد حالتها اصعب خاطر ما عندهمش كونت بانكير اصلا، يعني حتى لي زابليكاسيون تاع البايمون الكترونيك ما ينجمش يستعملهم. واللي عنده كونت جوست عامله باش يخلص عليه ويجبد الفلوس كاش.
تفضل.
بركي نجم نخلص بالكارتة؟
ديزولي، بالكاش.
عسلامة.
عسلامة.
شنو الكتاب هذايا؟
اي مرحبا.
نجم نخلص بالكارتة؟
لا ديزولي، فماش كارتة ريزو.
لازمني نكون حاضرة للزوز، كيف ما اليوم خلصت 3 حاجات مختلفين وما نعرفش بمسبق شنو الميثود دو بايمون اللي يقبلها التاجر. فما برشا أسباب كيف ما الثقة، عاداتنا، نقص المعلومات، لاكسي للتكنولوجي. ديجا فما برشا عباد أصلا ما عندهمش دي سمارت فون. الثنية مازالت طويلة، ولكن أنا عندي أمل. كان نحبوا المعاملات في المجتمع متاعنا تولي أسهل وأشمل، لازم الديجيتال يولي أكثر في حياتنا ويخدم الناس الكل.
Okay, Serge, back to you.
Thank you, Nesrin. Let me share again my screen. Thank you, Nesrin. So this gave you the specific habits and challenges and the way a specific persona of end user that is taken from our report. So at the end of my presentation, we're going to quickly go through the other persona that have been identified as typical usage of digital financial services in Africa. Okay. In terms of the number of IPS in Africa, as of June 2025, we count 33 live domestic IPS across 25 countries. We have seen the launch of 5 new IPS, which are in Eswatini, the Eswatini payment switch, in Sierra Leone, in Somalia, in Libya, and in Algeria. When you look at the map, it's interesting to understand that some countries have multiple instant payment systems, and some countries, so they have multiple instant payment systems, and it's important to understand the types of instant payment systems. There are basically 4 types of IPS. One is what we call the cross-domain IPS. It's an instant payment system where interoperability all-to-all is guaranteed. What we mean by all-to-all, we mean that from any wallet in the country, someone can send it to any formal account in the country, whether it's bank account or, of course, other wallets, or even microfinance accounts, or even fintech accounts provided by fintech. So this specific type of IPS provides to the end user the maximum availability, the maximum options when it comes to sending money or doing transactions with other people in the country. We have the second category, we have the bank IPS, which is an IPS that connects only bank accounts to bank accounts. We have the mobile money IPS, and you can see the legend in terms of colors here below. In green, we have the mobile money IPS, which allow users of mobile money operators to send money only to other mobile money operators. And then we have the sovereign currency IPS, which only allow central banks to transfer money, to wire funds between themselves, between them. So, and what is interesting, in countries where you can have multiple IPS, for example, Ghana, or for example, even Nigeria. So for some of those countries, the IPS are interconnected. So that's the case in Ghana, for example, where the bank IPS, GIP, is connected to the mobile money IPS, MMI. So in a way, in the country, the interoperability all to all is guaranteed. We also have counted in 2025 3 regional IPS that are active, and that cover 27 countries. So we have GMACPay covering the CMAC region in Central Africa. We have PAPS covering a number of countries across Africa, West and Eastern Africa. It's a bank IPS. And we have the TCIB IPS covering a number of countries within the SADC region. Now let's look at numbers in terms of volume, in terms of value. You can easily see from these numbers how the cross-domain IPS are really contributing to a lot of growth when it comes to value, while the mobile money IPS are highly contributing to growth when it comes to volume. When it comes to volume in Africa, the domestic and regional IPS are processing over 64 billion transactions. And in terms of value, we are just a little under $2 trillion in value. This growth, it's good to mention that the contribution of cross-domain IPS also comes from the fact that more and more countries are rolling out and launching cross-domain IPSs. Just to give you a point of reference, in 2020, there were only 6 cross-domain IPS in Africa. But in 2024, as in the report, you have 18 cross-domain IPS, 16 domestic and 2 regional. So that growth, so it shows that in Africa, the countries are really understanding the opportunity of guaranteeing interoperable payment systems that really bridge the barriers and allow people to transfer money and to transact regardless of the type of account. It's a noticeable observation, and which is really reassuring when it comes to when we look at the goal and the ambition to ensure in Africa universal financial inclusion. So what are the shifts and milestones from the SIIPS 2024 report? Again, now we have 33 live domestic IPS in 25 countries. It went up from 28 that we had in the report of 2024. In terms of live IPS, we are now at 36 compared to 31 in 2024, because there are 5 new systems that have launched. So when you look at the report, it's important to really go through these shifts and this page where we explain what have changed from last year. So you see that in the report of last year, some changes come from names of the IPS that have evolved. And changes can also come from the type of information that we receive from the IPS themselves. You see, for example, that in the report of 2025, you have reclassified a couple of IPS. And this sometimes comes from the information we collect or the lack of information that we are not able to confirm with the IPS themselves. You will see in a few slides that the report, the spectrum of inclusivity and the ranking that we provide, some of the IPS in Africa are in the unranked category. That is typically because the data that we have or that we are able to collect from those IPS is not enough to allow us to provide an accurate assessment of their level of inclusivity. So those details that we provide in terms of changes from one year to another year are quite important to look at. Now let's deep dive a bit into the inclusivity spectrum. There's a range of, well, the inclusivity it's a whole spectrum when it comes to having an IPS to become fully inclusive. So AfricaNenda, we have proposed this spectrum where we rank the IPS in 3 levels: basic, progressed, and mature. And again, the unranked, the ones that we are not able to put on the spectrum. So what do we mean by basic IPS? A basic IPS inclusivity level means that the IPS is ensuring at least the minimum channel functionality and the minimum use case functionality. Imagine an IPS that launched in a country where mobile money is quite popular, very well used, and very well used using, for example, the USSD channel. And imagine an IPS launching in this country, but however, using as a channel the app. So users could only transact through this IPS when they use the application of the digital financial services providers. In this case, we would say that this country or this IPS is not fulfilling the criteria of minimum channel functionality, because in order to be fully inclusive, the IPS needs to open and to give the possibility to a maximum of people to transact and using the most popular channels in the country. So in this case, it will be USSD. So that's what we mean by minimum channel functionality. On the other hand, if there's a country where the bank system is quite developed, for example, and people are quite used to digital banking apps, if in such a country the IPS launches and is providing its services to end users that use the app, then that country will satisfy this criteria of minimum channel functionality, because the app is the way people transact digital. When it comes to the minimum use case functionality, it's really about saying that the minimum couple of okay. So it's really saying that the minimum use case that the IPS should offer to the end users are the P2P, person to person, people to people, and P2B, person to business. And basically, those are usually the two first services that are quite popular in many of the countries where the digital financial services have started and are scaling. For an IPS to be able to have at least those two, to respect those two criteria, we estimate that in terms of regulation, there's a minimum that needs to be there in the country. For example, a national financial inclusion strategy is definitely a key feature that shows that the policymakers and the regulators are aligned when it comes to putting resources for financial inclusion, when it comes to prioritizing efforts to allow the population to know better digital financial services, to educate the population, and to facilitate the emergence of digital financial services in the market. We estimate also that the regulation at least needs to allow the e-money issuance by non-banks. In other words, in these countries, we expect that at least the regulation allows non-banks, and in many cases, it would allow subsidiaries of mobile network operators to issue e-money and to offer that service to the populations. It's also important to have agent banking regulation to make sure that the digital financial services are really closer to the end users. And it's definitely important to have also a tiered customer due diligence requirement, because it will allow lower risk customers not to go through a too cumbersome and heavy process of due diligence. So if a customer needs to have, if a customer wants to have access to a digital account, to a wallet, if the country doesn't have a proper tiered customer due diligence, in this country, for example, the central bank may require that for any account, the customer needs to show the national ID card. However, in the same country, you would have regions where people just don't have those national ID cards. But maybe in those regions, well, they have their birth certificates, or maybe they have their voters cards. So this type of regulation will allow these people also to have access to an account. Next level of IPS is the progressed level of IPS inclusivity. It means that it fulfills those three criteria. One, the participation by all licensed PSPs, ensuring all-to-all interoperability. again, when we look at the outcomes of the inclusive instant payments systems, we want it to serve everyone. And eventually, if you want it to serve everyone, we need to let the financial service providers that are serving the most vulnerable segments of the population, we need to let them have access to the system. So that's what is meant there. So typically, respecting this criteria would mean that, of course, banks would be able to access, but mobile money operators, microfinance institutions, and other fintechs, payment fintechs in the country. This type of IPS also provides functions with a pro-poor governance. What we mean by that is that the participants, all the types of participants, are given a seat at the decision-making table of the IPS. So this type of IPS would not say, for example, the banks have a voting right for some design decisions within the IPS, while the e-money operators wouldn't. So in this type of IPS, all the participants have their say and are given an opportunity through the processes implemented within the IPS to give their opinion when it comes to design decisions. And then we have, excuse me, and then we have the central bank involvement. We mean by that the central bank is involved in the governance of the IPS, involved in the governance, involved in the supervision of the IPS. Again, a typical enabling policy and regulatory environment is required to ensure these criteria can be fulfilled by the IPS. I think I'll move forward. Am I good on time, or I need to accelerate? Asking very honestly.
You're still good on time, but I don't know how many slides you still have, so well.
Okay. Not that many. I think I can speed up. Okay.
Yeah, I think we can keep going.
Serge, maybe for the next one, for the mature, maybe we can reserve it when we will speak about the NIP mature. So you can skip this one and you can explain later.
Yeah. Okay.
While you do that, dear fellows and journalists, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We will be happy to answer it after.
So let me do this one. All right. So where do we stand in terms of the IPS? I mentioned the unranked IPS. It's really coming from almost everywhere in Africa. The basic level of IPS, a lot of representation in Northern Africa, the Maghreb, and Eastern Southern Africa. In terms of progress, you will see, so we can see this patch, this area, which is the GMAC, the CMAC region, covered by the GMAC IPS. And then we are happy to mention that in Africa last year, we saw the first IPS becoming mature in terms of inclusivity. That is a great achievement in Africa, and it's also showing the path that we are advocating for and showing that it's possible and achievable. And Nigeria was the first country to make it happen. Congratulations. So what exactly makes the case of Nigeria really specific and mature? So you'll see that it fulfills all the criteria for the basic level and the progressed level. So here we just mentioned the, anyway, it fulfills those criteria. But on top of it, it allows a whole set of use cases, the full set of use cases. P2B, P2P, P2B, P2G, and the reverse, G2P, B2B, and B2P. And also allows cross-border use cases. It offers all the channels that are used by the population in the country. It provides to the end users a specific dispute resolution system, but also a proper consumer recourse if there is any need to escalate or need for arbitration. The central bank is involved in the process, and it provides the kind of trust that is necessary for the IPS the kind of trust that is necessary for the end users to really use this type of infrastructure at scale and on a daily basis.
Excuse me, can you unshare and then reshare your screen? There seems to be a small glitch on the screen.
Okay.
Sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
And while you do that, I'll take the opportunity to say to the colleagues that I've put in the chat also a blog post that we've written about the NIP, so the instant payment system of Nigeria. So we've written about it, a blog post. Of course, we also have a case study that we will share with you. And per Vivian's request, I will put in the chat the explanation of the acronyms. Yes, Serge, now it's better. Thank you very much. Sorry to cut you.
Thank you, Nesrin. Thank you. So, and the last criteria NIP is fulfilling is that it's operating on a not-for-loss business model. So NIP is providing the service at a very low cost for the end users. At the same time, it still ensures its own sustainability and long-term ability to provide the service. So that's the not-for-loss business model that we advocate for and that NIP is fulfilling. Now, when it comes to cross-border instant payments in West Africa, there are still gaps that need to be bridged. Well, the cost of transfers across countries, or the fact that until very recently and well, still up to now, it's largely informal. Now there are opportunities that exist. We recently heard about the link between the Nigeria's NIP and PAPS, which is a very good thing. And we also have seen, it's September 2025, the launch of the regional IPS of West Africa, of the YMU the West African Economic and Monetary Union. Those are really building blocks that we hope will accelerate transactions, interoperability, cross-border transactions in West Africa over the years. And in terms of what's next, we are organizing a webinar next month of March, where we will allow the audience to really have a better understanding of, well, first the SIIPS 2025 insights, but also the role of the BCAO IPS, so the PSP in West Africa. I will not go through these user behaviors. You watched the video of one of the persona, but you can just remember that they are those persona that have been defined and that allow to understand better the types of customers we have in Africa and that deserve to be served by the inclusive infrastructure we advocate for. So with that, I will just end with the typical expectations of those customers. They have frictions on a daily basis that are, well, preventing them or that are not incentivizing them to use digital financial services, especially the trust deficit when it comes to digital payments, when there are inconsistent network problems, connectivity problems, that diminishes the trust of the users. And eventually, some users just decide just to continue to use cash because they just don't trust that the system is reliable enough. Another challenge is the lack of transparency in fees, especially when it comes to cross-border payments. Sometimes the exchange rates are not that clear to the sender. So those are some of the frictions, and here, those are some of the solutions that could be put in place by the digital financial services providers and by the instant payment system infrastructure. So, of course, making sure that end users have enough, are provided with convenient user experience, and that they have enough control in the process. So knowing, for example, that the person has received the money in time and so on. And I will highlight the making sure that the end user really trusts the system. Again, for example, this feature of consumer recourse that we advocate for at the mature level, it's making a whole difference when the customer knows that whatever happens with my transaction, there is a way to make sure that I don't lose that money and that it really reaches the person that I wanted without a lot of hassle. So that's a great component that adds to the trust that the end users will have in the system. So with that, I will conclude and give the floor for questions. And we invite you to really go to the website and to learn straight from the report and from the website. Thank you very much, and I welcome questions.
Thank you so much, Serge. I've personally learned a lot, and I believe the fellows have too. At this stage, I would invite fellows with questions to raise your hands so that you can ask them. So please raise your hand and I would call you to ask your question. I know the presentation was good and enlightening, but it can't be that you don't have any question. Albert, any question?
No, I'm good, ma. No question from my end.
Okay, so what was most exciting or interesting for you from the findings?
So I'll start with the speed of the transaction.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Albert, yes.
So I said from my end, there's actually no question, so I'm good. So looking at the
We lost him again.
Yeah, I think his network is not very stable. It's a West African problem. I will not speak for those in Eastern Central Africa, but yeah, we do have a lot of internet issues. Okay, does anyone else have a comment or question to ask? Anything you need clarified?
Vivian, maybe I can share a bit on, you mentioned the Wamika. Maybe we can talk about the role of media in this advocacy
Question.
agenda we have.
Sure. I think someone,
Okay.
Juliet Ume, you have a question?
Yes, I just need a clarification. So, okay, the presenter mentioned that there was a launch of 5 new IPs in Africa. So I want to know why Nigeria was not among the countries that the 5 new IPs was launched, or he can throw a clarification on that. Let me understand better, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Juliet. Serge, do you have a response for that?
Yes, yes, it did. So we do consider that it's from my understanding that the launch, and we attended that launch actually, is still a continuation of the IPS that are already in Nigeria. So as we speak, we in the report, it's not yet mentioned maybe the differences that have been the differences with the new system that NIPS has launched. But I think we can make a note of it in the next report, because if I'm not mistaken, the launch has occurred at a point in time where the data collected was closed or closing. So that is one reason why, as we speak in the report of 2025, we make no mention of it. But definitely in 2026, this year, there will be a mention of it and of the launch of the launch of NIPS.
I can add clarification
Berry
as
and
well,
Nesrin?
but I'll let Berry go first, and then I'll add more clarification on that.
No, it was just to confirm, sir, that the NIP, the new NIPS platform, was launched in June. And then at that period, the data collection was already closed. The same happens to West Africa, where the BCI will launch a new regional system, the P. We just mentioned it in the report, but in terms of analyzing data and then being able to assess that one, it will be in the next SIIPS report.
Yes. So can I add something to that, Billy?
Yes, sure.
Just to give the exact duration. So basically, we conduct the research and data collection between January and June. And for this report, the SIPS 2025, so January and June 2025. So what happens after the 30th of June 2025, it will be accounted in the SIPS 2026, which I am sure you are looking forward to. So this is the first one. Second, we do have a case study on NIP Nigeria in the SIPS report, which I will paste in the chat in a little bit. But I think what's specific, and here's the difference in your to clarify you also more in your question, is that you mentioned, so when we said there were IPSs that were launched, so 5 new IPSs that were launched, these are countries, so domestic IPSs who didn't have an an instant payment system, and they now started having a new system. For the case of Nigeria, there was already a system, but they moved to a next phase, which I think that's the nuance between like the 5 new launches and Nigeria, who moved to the next phase. It's similar as well for eCash in Rwanda, which they also unleashed a new phase in their a new use cases in their IPS. There is also a question in the chat, which I am seeing, which is, what are the major differences between the 2024 report and that of 2025? Are there new development? Yes, there are. So I'll let Serge maybe take that part, and I can add more clarification if you're fine, or if you want me to go through it, Serge, I can do that.
I think so. It's the slide. I'll go back to the slide.
Yeah.
With the major differences. Excuse me.
So while you do that, maybe I can speak of it a little bit while you share the slides. So as a summary, because it's a very comprehensive report, and I just want to make sure that you have the gist of it for now, because I'm sure you're gonna go and read it. So for the summary changes since 2024, so there are these 5 new systems that were launched between July 2024 and June 2025, which are the Switch Mobile in Algeria, Eswatini Payment Switch fast payment module in Eswatini, LiPay in Libya, Salon Payment Switch in Sierra Leone, apologies, and Somalia instant payment system. There is also 2 systems who are listed under new names compared with SIPS 2024. And this is all based on the data collection and the survey responses. So Maroc Pay, in 2024, it was called Maroc Pay. It's now Switch Al Maghreb, so for Morocco. And Taifa Muja is now Tanzania Mobile Money. And 2 systems were reclassified based on the categories of PSPs they allowed to participate. So Switch Al Maghreb was reclassified from a cross-domain IPS to a mobile money IPS, and Pesa Link in Kenya was reclassified from a bank IPS to a cross-domain IPS. And yeah, and over to Serge for that. For more.
Thank you, Nesrin. I think you mentioned it. What we've also mentioned is the growth that we are seeing in terms of the use of IPS across Africa, and one striking difference is also the fact that we have one mature IPS, which is Nigeria, and those are some of the highlights. But for a more comprehensive list, you can as well look at the report where you will have all the details. But yeah, in terms of high level, those are the ones. And maybe you have a more specific question in terms of what you would like to see in terms of difference between the 2 reports, 2024 and 2025.
There's also a question in the chat about what other countries are doing and us being able to measure it up. I think that's what we shared in this couple of minutes we spent together. We can't go country by country, unfortunately. The report has a lot of information. We have the overview, and then for specific countries, we have developed case studies. If you go on our website on the SIIPS page, we have, I think, case studies. Nesrin mentioned Nigeria, we have Rwanda, we have covered Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, quite a number of countries where we really dig deeper into the country landscape, consumer behaviors, etc. So those are the case studies. But for the report in general, we don't share into detail per country. It's the landscape overview that Serge mentioned and the major changes we have. But the case studies are really interesting piece to look at in terms of where the different countries stand in terms of this inclusivity spectrum we mentioned. Any other question? Okay, well, maybe people are putting question in the chat.
Please.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, ma. I want to understand from your analysis, we understand that Nigeria has matured, in terms of this IPS. So, but is Nigeria there already? Are there things that Nigeria is supposed to do more, to get to another level? We understand that I have matured in this IPS, but are there other things expected of Nigeria, or are we already there? Thank you.
It's a good question. Serge, maybe you want to chime in. I like the way, yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you, Juliet, for this very practical question. So the inclusivity IPS inclusivity spectrum provides the ranks the types of IPS. So an IPS, it ranks the infrastructure. It ranks whether it has design features that are well in line with having a payments infrastructure in the country that serves everyone, everywhere. So that's what is ranked. Now, in practice, it doesn't mean that everyone is already using the platform. And it doesn't mean that now all of a sudden the country, everyone is financially included. This takes time. I mean, the rails are there, but it will take more time for the NIBS infrastructure to really reach everyone in Nigeria. And now it's more an effort to scale now the access to the platform. Not only to scale the access to it, but also the usage of the platform. More absolutely that there is more and more that could be done by the infrastructure, by the NIBS infrastructure. But what we are saying is that in terms of features, design features, the infrastructure is mature enough to really grow into a payment infrastructure that is universal. That's what we are saying.
And maybe if I could add to that, and I think linking it to what you can do as a media to support the advocacy piece is that I think Serge mentioned, access is one thing, but then usage. We are looking at usage because the usage is what makes impact actually. And for that to happen, people need to know that this system exists, how to use it, and how they can transform the way they transact, the way they do business. And this is where the storytelling happened. And then for NIBS, for example, I'm happy that it's 15 journalists from Nigeria who are online. It means that you will be able to go, in some remote areas, look at how people are behaving in terms of, accessing to financial inclusion, using whether mobile money or different types you have, and then see if people understand if it's accessible if the barriers we mentioned are still there, if the infrastructure is responding to the need of the people for whom it has been, created, designed, built. So I think this is where you really plug in this journey to help us spread the message that this inclusive instant payment can transform the way people, I will not say lives, it is a big word, but at least can help people improve their life by, you have access to finance, then you can save. Maybe you can have a digital credit, you can track your finance, etc. So I think it's something that is really important, and we're really counting on the media. I think it's one of our target audience to just support the advocacy mandate. There's another question on what is your opinion about use of mobile phone number as account number by fintech, bearing in mind that the phone number can be recycled and reassigned to new users. Okay, I think this is a specific case. Serge, any thought?
Well, it's a
I
specific.
think it speaks to security, or I guess.
Rashida, do
Well,
you maybe, sorry guys, if you want to explain a bit more, I think maybe this is a peculiar situation in Nigeria, and maybe if you can provide a bit of context about the use of the mobile numbers and recycling and all that, so that maybe we could understand your question a bit more.
Okay, good morning. Thank you so much for the lecture so far, your presentation. Yeah, my question is about the mobile money. They use phone numbers of individuals to create an account for them. So meaning that when I want to open an account, they don't need to issue me another number, account number, bank account number. They just use my phone number, remove the first 0 in front, and the rest of the 9 numbers become my account number. Now, there are issues of people who are complaining that their numbers that they linked with the mobile money, the specific mobile money, has been reassigned to some other users. So there's this issue of having your money being transferred to someone else, So that's what the question is about. Now, what's your opinion? Do you think using a mobile number as a bank account is safe enough?
Thank you for the question. Well, what we advise is more to move towards this digital ID layer that is a part of the DPI infrastructure. When the country sets infrastructure allowing every citizen to have an ID that can be used across services, whether it's mobile phone ownership, whether it's mobile money account, whether it's bank accounts. When you have this digital ID infrastructure in place, then the question of how the specific digital finance service provider identifies you becomes a secondary issue, because at the end of the day, this digital financial service will still have to give to each and every of its customers a number, that a digital ID number that is ensured by a specific digital ID infrastructure in the country. So to answer your question, I would say it's a problem, especially when that infrastructure is not there. But from what I understand, and you can correct me, I have understood that in Nigeria, the bank verification number is about to be, or it's at least the start of identification infrastructure that is really able to is really able to identify each and every of the customers of financial services across the providers. And that, for example, could be a really good way to, to avoid the problem you just mentioned on mobile phone numbers.
I also spoke to someone who said you can open a mobile account, digital payment account number without using the BVN, which is an identifier. So because they're trying to escape repayment of some specific loans, and the bank can trace them using the BVN. So they open mobile bank account number, which is not linked with the BVN.
And maybe just to add to that, Rashida, I think and again, this is why inclusive instant payment. I think Serge mentioned a certain criteria that defines IIPS, and one of these criteria we have the security aspect. I think in a well-designed inclusive instant payment, this type of issue would not happen. Nigeria is a specific case. I know there's a lot of work being done. I think they started their journey 30 years ago. It took them 30 years to achieve this level of maturity we're talking about. And there are still things that need to be done, especially on the security part. But security is one of the key aspects of an instant payment to be really to move to the mature level. So I'm sure it's something that will be tackled soon by the different stakeholders. But I think using a phone number is just, it's quite easy. If you look at the mobile money penetration in Africa, it's a really high one. So it's one of the mean where we can achieve financial inclusion. So for sure, there will be solution to the challenge you're having now in Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
There was another question, Serge, on how we are competing as Africa, compared to the rest of the world globally. I think the question is based on the submission that Nigeria and some other countries are leveling up. Is Africa now competitive globally in terms of instant payment system? That's a good question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. So the report focuses on instant payment systems in Africa. And the goal really is not so much to check whether Africa is leveling up against instant payment systems outside Africa. The goal is not that, in the sense that inclusivity is really what Africa needs. That's really what Africa needs. So the extent to which, for example, we would say Africa is, the IPS in Africa are at par with other IPS because now, for example, AI is used, or because now, all those new technologies are included are used by our within our infrastructure. The extent to which we could say something like this is only the extent to which those technologies are better serving people. So eventually, what we are saying is not, when we say Nigeria is mature in terms of inclusivity, we are not saying Nigeria is as competitive or as innovative as PIX or as SIIPS or any other instant payment system in the world. It's more saying when it comes to the critical goal of including people in Africa, NIPS is the infrastructure that is best in line in Africa to reach that goal. Now, we could compare the IPS in Africa to the other globally on many different criteria, right? Not necessarily the inclusivity criteria, because that's not necessarily, and that's not what other IPS in developed countries would necessarily focus on. You know, they will probably focus on having payment systems that are more that are more convenient, yes, that are more instant, that are more advanced in terms of analytics, that are more and more and more. That's fine. Us, we try to respond to which IPS are best in line to help Africa achieve its goal of financial inclusion, universal financial inclusion. That's our lens. But yeah, I don't know if Barry, you want to complement my answer.
Thank you, Tej. Any other questions? If I were a customer, how secure is my money? What happens if something goes wrong? I guess your money in your phone, right? Anibe Ijalidi. Yeah, that's the question. I guess it's the mobile money. Ref.
So thanks for the answer. I cannot respond with the specific, within the specific context of Nigeria, because I'm not living in Nigeria and wouldn't be able to respond. But so what we've tried to say through this presentation, for example, that question you ask is the question that usually the customers are asking, and that's what they are. That's why we were saying that there is a trust issue. And that point of how secure is my money is at the heart of that question, how secure it is. And the instant payment systems that are mature in the sense we give it, those payment systems embed consumer recourse mechanisms that allow customers first to know exactly what happens if anything goes wrong. Second, to appeal if there's even a disagreement between the customer and the service provider or the IPS infrastructure, and that arbitration can go up to the central bank. So this is what we call an additional consumer recourse mechanism that is critical for end users to feel that their money is secure, and that if whatever happens, they have a way to at least be heard, and they have a way for that case to be judged at the highest level, which will be the central bank in this case. But yeah, so that's what we are saying. This question is indeed at the heart of building trust within the systems, and the consumer recourse mechanisms we mentioned that mature systems fulfill is the one that is needed to provide trust to the customers.
Again, security, trust. I really encourage you to go back to the different criteria we have explained for an instant payment to be inclusive. Security, affordability, and other criteria are really key. Any other questions?
Barry, if people don't have, like colleagues don't have any more questions, maybe we can ask them questions about what you, dear journalists, what would be helpful for you to better do your job at reporting and informing the public, and having an impact. What would you like to see from AfricaNenda Foundation in order for you to better do your job?
That's a good question. Anything you want to share? I think I heard from the presentation that we have editors online attending this training. Is that correct, Vivian?
Yes, one editor. Okay. Yes, who's the current editor
And
for.
I'm so happy we have editors because I know from different conversation with different journalists, and I'll mention our media coalition later. We are trying to build. One of the challenge we mentioned we got from the exchanges is that we need to include editors because the journalists can be passionate about one topic and willing to write, but it needs to be, there is an approval from the editor that needs to happen. If he's not interested in, if there's no incentive behind that, so the probability for him to have his piece published is really, really low. So happy also to hear if the same applies in Nigeria. And I know this is the first presentation, so it might be early for you to really be able to share your expectation, but know that we are open to those type of conversation. We are currently building what we call the media coalition. And I know we already have someone in Nigeria, Premium Times, as part of the media coalition, Bakari Majid. So the purpose of the media coalition is really to build a group of journalists who are knowledgeable, skilled, and who will be able to tell the story, the financial inclusion story we're trying to tell. So Jude is our media lead, leading the Media Coalition Initiative, and you may reach out to him later on if you're interested in that coalition and how we can work all together to support the agenda, which is, again, it's an African agenda. It's for Africa, so it needs to be done by African as well. So we really welcome your contribution, your inputs, and we will remain available for anything you want to share. If you're willing to contribute, if you're interested in covering some of the stories, especially in Nigeria, we really hope that you will go, you will meet the NIPS team, look at what they're doing, and then maybe go into those remote areas and then track and then see if that maturity of NIPS is impacting Nigeria's financial inclusion or any changes you can share with the ecosystem. Because we mentioned Nigeria as we say it's a homegrown solution. It's built in Nigeria by Nigerians as well, and it's something that can benefit the whole continent. So we really encourage you to go and look at the story and then see how you can help us tell it to the rest of the continent. All right, Vivian, if there is no more question or contribution, we're giving you back the floor and then, yeah.
Okay. Right. I don't see any more question in the chat and no hand is up. So I think this probably brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you so much, AfricaNenda team, for agreeing to engage the fellows. Last year, around November, we had a training for the fellows in Abuja, and we had the NIMC, which is the Identity Management Body. And later on, they had a virtual engagement with NIPS. And so this sort of fills in the gap between issues around ID systems and instant payments. And I think Rashida's question sort of strongly brings out the linkage between ID systems and the instant payments in terms of how, for many of us, it's our phone numbers that we are using for instant payment platforms, and the questions around when phone numbers are recycled and all of that. I think is a very interesting question that probably gives an idea of even a story that can be developed or produced, looking at the issue and how Nigeria is tackling it from their end. So I think I got an idea of a first group story that we could get fellows to write on, sharing experiences from their different states that they are based. So I think that perhaps after this call, I would get in touch with them and see how we move that forward. And for those who are writing on stories around instant payments, that also would give them some ideas on how to look at the inclusive bits and how to strengthen their story. So I think this has been really interesting and educative. And I mean, I can bet that the fellows have really learned a lot. And once again, I'd like to thank you, Barry, Nisreen, Jude, Sedge, and the rest of the AfricaNenda team on the call, and also the fellows. You didn't really have a choice in this matter, but thank you for showing up and also participating. And I look forward to more of such engagements and also seeing how we can strengthen fellows' knowledge about inclusive instant payments and how they can also support the work that AfricaNenda is doing. I think that we have a Wameka meeting next week. And so once we are done with the meeting, Barry, I probably would reach out about our plans for Wameka and see how, we explore if collaboration is possible for this year as well.
It would be possible, definitely. It's really a pleasure to work with the Wameka and then to work with the journalists. I also wanted to thank our colleague Serge. Serge is we have a lot of technical specialists in-house who are also available and ready to share information, to explain different concepts. I know this is the last minute for him, a last minute call. Our deputy CEO was supposed to do the presentation, but then had a family emergency. So thank you, Serge, for taking it over in a so short time frame. Thank you to Jude for making it happen. Thank you to Nesreen for the support and the rest of the team. We look forward to collaborating with you. We are really open. Jude has shared his contact. If anything, you can reach out to him. And then our digital comms lead is kindly asking if you can just have a final virtual picture for those who are able to put their camera on, just for souvenir, let's say, and probably an online post. We are happy to have you on screen if you're able to put your camera on. Great. Thank you, Rashida. Yes, Jude.
I'm sorry, I would have loved to put my photo, but I'm in transit.
Yeah. Okay. It also work. You can put your great Mohammed. Awesome. Adeyemi, Juliet. Juliet is your favorite, right? Is it what you said, Juliet?
Yes.
You'll tell me the story.
She almost wasn't my favorite, but by force she became my favorite.
Yeah.
She understands why I say that.
Yeah.
Maybe one last row of people, so I have a full square.
Yeah. Okay, you're taking the picture. Should we smile or say something? No?
We can say cheers.
Cheers, okay.
Yes.
In 1, 2, 3, we go. Hello, 1, 2, 3.
Cheers.
Done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for your time, your patience. I know it's really technical and it could be hard early morning, especially my fellow who are fasting. I know how hard it is, but thank you for just staying online and engaging with us. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.